Hello everybody, welcome back to Gelvin Valley, Farming Simulator 15, my app created by Wild Wild Wes. Actually, let me go back to where I just was. Look at that. You know, I had forgotten in Farm Sim 15, maybe this carries over to other versions, how our combine is getting its first bath. I just happened to notice this because I actually started to see yellow instead of all the dirt, that we previously had on there. Fantastic. Maybe by the time this shower is over with, I think we have about 4 hours of it. Maybe finally by then we'll have a clean combine. Kind of in the opening screen, I was looking at prices. Wheat is slowly coming up, but barley looks like it may be wanting to take a tumble. So I'm gonna do a little movement of the barley. Let me see, can I start it here? Nearest wave. No, 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 no. Don't want to do that. Where's the next? Here's the next dot. Maybe that's close enough. There we go. So I think he will head up and he will sell that. And I think in the meantime, what I want to do, I know this maybe is counter to realism. We wouldn't really do this in real life. Here's my excuse. I'll just say it just started raining, so we had to stop threshing, but there's still enough dryness left in all these windrows that we're able to come in here and row them up a little bit. That's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. So while he's over there selling, hopefully making us some money, we'll try to keep an eye on the cash position, and when it changes, we'll know to be on the lookout for him, and he's actually, maybe course play will tell us. I don't know. Because if you recall from a previous session, I don't think we're able to set up a typical course play to haul grain out of our storage. There just isn't room. The algorithm of course play requires 2 bullet points before you can do any twists and turns in terms of how you set up your route. And unfortunately, those first 2 bullet points are very far apart. And if we were to set up the course properly to haul up to market by starting where the grain gets put in the trailer, it just would poke clear into the other side, and there's no feasible way to easily turn the tractor and trailer around. So, in other words, we'll have to babysit it a little bit, but we'll be alright. Looks like we dropped a little chopped straw kind of right there at the beginning. I maybe should have started my rowing over at this far end, but I opted to come up through the forest. Started it kind of at a different angle. In some ways, I almost wonder if I even need to be windrowing this stuff. With a little wider header, it's putting more straw behind the combine. I can almost use it as is, drop straight out of the combine. But I think I will end up saving a little bit of time doing this. Because I think, if they're close together like this, I can put 2 into 1. Yeah, kind of like a marriage, 2 to 1. And if anybody asking or seeing this as this isn't realistic, I'll just point them to Reefy 1952. I've watched a number of his videos, and I'm almost positive he does stuff in the rain too, so I hope that means I'm in good company, because if Reefy does it, then, well, it must be just alright. And anybody can do it. Hard corner, I maybe should have tried to angle out a little better. This field here is so miserable steep down on here. Yeah, it takes a little while to crawl out of the canyon. I ended up shutting the game down after the last episode. I was frustrated trying to get my combine through some of the field entrance openings, so I removed collisions on a couple of those things. Won't look the best, in terms of realism going through there. But I'm tired of beating up my poor combine and the header, just to get into the field. So hopefully now that can happen smoothly. I also got rid of the rock. It was kind of over the edge on field 42 down there. Kind of like we've seen before, the thing is basically a cliff. And I tried rearranging the rock so that it would appear like a cliff face, and it just wasn't oriented right. Just one of those things. So maybe there's something else that could be done. However the object was set up, it was kind of cattywampus in terms of its rotation, so what do you do? What do you do? Alright, now let's see. Will this angle work? Maybe not. Let me get down here and face uphill and see what I can get out of that. Yeah, maybe I want to put it on a little bit more angle than that. That way, do I get a little bit more? Can't win for losing. Maybe there. Alright, that's a reasonable compromise. Try to put this into decent rows. Let me check where my course plate. Aha, you know what? He's sitting there. We're going to go tend to our tractor. Patiently waiting. So we want to keep this barley moving. Sneak through here. Of course, I suppose something I could do in the map if I really wanted a proper... Hey, leave this on barley. If I really wanted a proper setup here for course play, maybe I can move the storage shed here just a fuzz. I don't know. Maybe change the angle of it so that he's heading out the gate, move the gate. I'm sure there's any number of things that could be done, but we'll just deal with it as it is. I'm not going to get this little extra fuzz down there, but you know what? I think we'll survive. Oh, so close. And I can hardly suspend reality for this. We would just never do this in real life. I think in theory, a guy could take the tractor out and attempt to make windrows out of wet, sloppy straw. And maybe you could do some. Shoot, I mean, just because we always do this when it's dry, has anybody ever tried to do it when it's wet? I think probably the primary reason you wouldn't do it when it's wet is you don't want to just take all that water content and stuff it into your windrow and pack it in there by rolling it up kind of that way. But maybe it could be done. That reminds me of a story that my father told me. And my dad grew up on Lone Oak when he was a kid. And so this was something I think they observed one of their neighbors do. I can't remember if I've told this story in here before. You know what? I'm just going to keep on going around so we kind of have a buffer going around this here rock pile. I mean Stonehenge. But there was, they had a grass seed farm. It was one of the rare summer rains that they happened to have, and so they were supposed to be combining, but like I said, the rain hit them, and so, oh, look at our cash move, we're selling. So they knocked off combining to wait out the rain, and so they were doing some things in the shop at home or whatever, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, whenever it was, even from their shop, which was kind of across the ravine, I would say several hundred yards away, maybe even, is that half a mile? It could be half a mile in there from the shop. I'm not really sure of the distance. a lengthy distance, they heard this loud, rattling, screeching, I guess, grinding of metal, a machine in high distress, and they're like, what in the world are we hearing? And so they were curious enough, they quit whatever they were working on, and they headed down towards their pond and kind of up the hill, kind of on the other side of the little valley that they have down there. And up in the field, in the pouring down rain, there was a farmer running a combine. And he was trying to combine grass seed windrows, just like they had at Lone Oak. But he was doing it in the pouring down rain, and they were just baffled by it. And what I don't know, I'd have to ask my father. I don't know if they attempted to go talk to this guy to figure out what he was on. If he really thought he could do this, I mean, you just can't thresh when everything is wet. That's just not how, it just isn't going to be feasible. It needs to be dry so the breeze or wind or whatever you have can blow chaff off. It's just for a whole host of reasons you can't do it when it's wet. And so, especially a tiny little seed, we're not talking wheat or corn or some heavy type of grain here. We're talking a little tiny fluffy grass seed where the specs on your combine, even when it's dry, need to be pretty tight in order to get the job done in the field. And I mean, especially with grass seed, you wouldn't do it. You're taking in the whole grass plant. You kind of have to do that, so you drag all the seeds in with it if any of them have been shattered out. Don't have much of a choice there. And so this guy was combining in the rain, taking in a heavy, wet windrow. And back in those days, the combines, were much smaller than they are today. So this was a puny little combine, and granted, the windrow sizes were smaller too, to kind of, work with a smaller machine. So maybe the windrow width at that time was 10 feet. 10 feet worth of grass shoved into a windrow and trying to take it through a combine. I can't imagine that there was any clean seed coming out in the grain tank. Um, I don't know how he managed to do it without plugging it. Again, I'd have to ask my dad on that particular detail. It's like, well, did you literally see straw coming out the back? Of course, it would have been sopping wet. How long it had been raining when this fellow was doing this. There's a number of details I just don't know. But I kind of think the farmer, whoever he was, well, number one, I don't think he's in the neighborhood anymore. But he might have been from another state. I almost think they say he came from California, maybe. And, maybe just so to explain economics here, California, there's a lot of wealth down in California, and the value of properties and homes down there is much higher than it is in the area where we live. So, and this is just a dynamic that happens, if you sell your property in an area where it's a lot of money and then you move, if you just stay in that area and you go from one property to another, it's all kind of imperative. If you get a similar type property, you know, maybe you made a lot of money on a particular home that you had, but you're going to give it all up just by buying another property. But if you take your money and you leave California, you can come into, a place like Oregon, where I live, or the Midwest, or some other area where housing prices just aren't near that high. And now all of a sudden you have enormous bargaining power in a community that just doesn't have the money. A dollar is the same no matter where you are in the nation. It just buys more or less, kind of depending on where you are. So maybe this was a fella like so many other Californians that came up, to Oregon, used his purchasing power, got himself into a farm, thought he'd become a grass seed farmer like all his neighbors, and didn't know how to do it. Um, had no experience. Who knows? Who knows what the reason is? It's just kind of funny story that's carried over in the family through the years. Some fella who didn't know enough to come in out of the rain. with his harvesting. So I guess I'm not from California, but in here, um, I guess I don't know when to come in out of the rain either. Oh, you know what? I bet our tractor, there it is. I gotta keep him moving before. Look at that. The price of barley's falling. They're both falling. Blimey. I don't know how much I'm gonna let this fall before I just wait again to haul more. But I'll try to capitalize on this a bit. Um, while the prices are where they are. I just don't know how often they get up to this point is the problem. So kind of is what it is. Rest of this, I think I'll just do. Yeah, I don't need to use GPS for this, I don't think. So just drag this down into a window. And I believe, I could be mistaken on this, but I almost think Farm Sim 15, unless it was 13, was the first version of Farming Sim where it truly accumulated the windrows. Someone may say, well, why don't we just bale every single windrow and then we'll get more bales? By moving them together, I think in the old game, all you did is you cut down the amount of work you had to do, but you didn't get any more bales from your effort. But I think Farm Sim 15 started recording it better. Oops. In terms of how much material you had, so that it genuinely added it together, and you weren't just moving it around on here. I think I remember seeing a YouTube video one time of somebody that did an experiment, and they took a whole field and they took their time and they windrowed the whole thing into a single windrow, and then they baled it. And they didn't get that many bales at all. They knew that if they had done just a handful of windrows on the field, they would have received many more bales. So I think eventually the Giants corrected that so that in later versions, I think beginning in 15, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, we started doing that. And then, of course, in 17, they changed the model altogether to where the material, if you will, that represented the windrow was just handled differently in the map. It was more tip anywhere style. I don't think you could put it on the roads, but yeah, basically, can I cut across here? I want to park it over by. Maybe I'll just continue on around. Why not? Go for a country drive. So I don't need to windrow these fields over here. So I'll go put this up by the next field where it'll be needed, which is, I said 38. Maybe what I meant was 32. Get it up there and park it. And I see too that we are getting a nice bath. I guess we're getting the poor man's bath when you can't afford the silly pressure washer. And I know once I go positive in my cash, I probably could afford it, but I'm still not sure that I'm going to get it. I mean, it's just my debt is so high. My wife and kids are in rags. Say the farm machinery looks better than the family car. My kids are sitting at the roadside with their little signs, hungry, will work for food, our dad is a jerk and won't feed us. So I better tend to the farm and make sure I take care of business so we can make some money to support the old family. I always get tricked out by this corner. Back this into here, and I'm gonna leave her sit. I'm gonna go find my tractor that's hauling grain. I can't even back up right. Even looking at it from up top, I still can't hardly. There we go. Just wanted to get him down in here and kind of out of the way. Oh, he's already back here waiting. Let me see, what's our prices? 254. All right, let's go get another one. Because I gotta stay ahead of this, because each tick of the game, I keep getting whacked with interest. So, gotta stay on top of my cash. Get back here and... Oop, I don't think I came too far. And turn and lose. There we go. You know, something I wanted to talk about at some point, it kind of stems from a comment that Reefy 1952 left on one of my videos. I think we talked about it previously. He mentioned his grandfather being in World War One. He mentioned the fact that he personally had, I think, like a couple hundred books on World War One, which is just phenomenal. That's amazing. I think that's what he put in his comment. And you know, so I've looked at my library. I don't even have a list. I haven't taken inventory. I have probably only a couple books on World War One. Just one I can think of off the top of my head. I think it's 11th Day, 11th Hour. Was 11th Month, 11th Day, 11th Hour, something like that, which I think represented the ending. And I think I previously have described a lot of my library and what have you. But another type of library I was thinking of is a game library. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I pretty well have kept every game I think I've ever purchased, or close to it. Even though, you know, I don't even use them anymore, I don't even think I could get most of them installed. You know, a lot of them, I store them kind of in this cabinet that I have off in the corner of my office here. And they're kind of in the, I think it's an annoyance to my better half, but she's tolerated it. I've stored it kind of in the bottom there in this drawer. And there's just boxes and boxes in there of these old games that I got over the years. And a lot of them, I'm not sure I ever even played that much. Some of them I did quite a bit, but then there were others that maybe I installed it, took a peek at it, and it's that's just not for me. But I know some of you too, you know, I repeat again, this is an old game that we're playing now, Farm Sim 15. There are some people I know that the minute the new version of Farming Sim comes out, they not only quit using the past versions, they literally delete them off their computer. You know, when I look at my computer here, I'm pretty sure I have every version installed all the way back to Farm Sim 09, all the way up to 22. So I've got 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, and 22 on here. I don't really go back to 09, really, or even 11. I think I did an episode on 11. I can't remember when it's going to be published on YouTube, looking at a genius map that was created for 11 that was way ahead of its time. Maybe I've mentioned it before in here, called Feldy, a map created by Farmer Yip. I think a Scottish type map, but just a very creative and innovative map, you know, that's on 11. If I went back to play 11 at all, I think it would be solely on that map. You go back to some of those earlier versions and it's pretty rough. So I totally get it, you know, why a person may just totally delete those off or say, thanks but no thanks, no more. 13, I haven't played the ad in a long time. I have it on the computer, and I never really did play it all that much. You know, I did a lot with 11 and a lot with 09. Then I kind of skipped up to 15 and did a lot in 17, but a little tiny bit in 19, but not really that much, and virtually nothing in 22. And some of it, I don't know, maybe some of it is it doesn't take much to keep me happy. Some of it I think too is, you know, learning to mod in some of the older versions. A lot of that gets obsolete. You head to the new ones And I don't know, I guess I'm getting to be an old man and it's hard to just learn new stuff all the time. But, so I don't know what that is. But anybody that's listening to this, and by the way, this is my 90th episode, I think, on Gelvin Valley. So I'm obviously still playing 15 after all this time. But what about you? I mean, and some of you, I mean, if you're even watching this, that kind of tells me that maybe you have a place for an older game in your heart. But what do you do? How many different versions do you have? Maybe you came to Farm Sim at a particular version and you just never thought to go backward. You know, the first version I ever got was '09. I know there's an '08, and I'm not sure where to get it. Probably if I could find it, I would buy it, just so I had a complete set. But in some ways, that's kind of silly because I don't think I'd ever play it at all. Because if I think it's rough going back to 11, I can only imagine how rough it would feel going clear back to the very first one of the franchise, clear back to '08. But anyway, and maybe this will take a couple episodes, I don't know. I went and I just kind of pulled a few things out of my library, old boxes, and I pulled these out of my kids. I have two sons at home. They look at some of these. It's like, what are these? And they look inside a couple of these. I think they know what a CD is, but they for sure aren't familiar, with the old style floppy disk. You remember those? What were those? Like 3.5 inches on a side. These hard plastic things that we all had held, not even a 1.5 megabytes, could fit on these. And then the CDs came along, and oh my, those were massive. Just holding, uh, what were they, 600 megabytes or something. Of course, the trouble with a CD is at least the earlier ones, they weren't read-write. You could only read them, so you got some limitations there. And then, of course, DVDs came along, and they were even larger, and so on and so forth. But, just pulling some of these things out, they weren't familiar with seeing some of these. And like one of these, like I'm holding in my hand right at the moment, Flight Simulator 2004. An old game I picked up at Walmart. It says here $19.77. Probably could get it even cheaper now if you can find it at all. It's Microsoft Flight Simulator, so one of my boys told me, he says, Dad, that's the most popular one that's out there, apparently. Maybe it is. I wouldn't know. I think this particular game came in a package with something else. It was kind of just thrown in for free. I'm not really a flight sim person, so I don't think I ever even installed this thing. So it's just kind of sitting in there taking up space. Yeah, kind of is what it is. Next one that I have here, and I'd be curious what you guys do too. I mean, it almost kind of, I think probably by the time I get done sharing my library, if I show you mine, you show me yours, it gives some profile as to the kinds of things I'm interested in. And I think I've mentioned before, I'm not really a shoot 'em up type person. Oh, maybe there was a time period in my life where I did a little more of that, but that's never really been my thing. I just love agriculture. I can't explain it. I That's just what I like. And anymore, I know there's lots of games out there. This is pretty well where if I have free time and I can play a game, well, this is where I put that time in. I know one of my good friends, Atomic 67, I've mentioned in here before. When he got into YouTubing, he kind of got onto the farming sim bandwagon, and I know he has an enjoyment and appreciation of farming and that kind of thing. But I don't think farming sim is his favorite game to play, if you will. But I almost wonder if, I mean, he could speak to it if he ever hears it, just put it in the comments. I almost wonder if he felt a little forced into it, because kind of as he came to the YouTube realm, that's what everybody, all of his friends, seem to be playing. Matter of fact, I almost think some of his Gelvin Valley episodes were among the earlier ones that he did. But he since has told me. I think I asked him here the other day, well, what truly is your favorite game? If it isn't Farming Sim or any number of others. And I think he told me it was No Man's Sky or something like that. Um, I don't know if he's ever published any episodes on it, so maybe, hopefully, someday he will and share kind of that part of what he does, because I don't know, any of us that know Atomic 67 and have seen his videos, enjoy just the sound of his voice. I think some people have just said, if you read the phone book, just names or whatever, I'd still listen to you. So whatever he's doing, whether it's Farm Sim or otherwise, it's enjoyable to listen. So hopefully you all will check him out. I think in every single one of my videos I have him tagged kind of at the end, so you can go visit his channel if you like. He's still helping me to this day in this silly YouTube venture I find myself on. So, and speaking of YouTube venture, I see my clock has turned over 30 minutes, so my goodness, I can only share about one other game. So maybe we'll need to cut the episode here and try it again on another one. So thank you all for watching and stopping by. Appreciate you coming by to support this and have a little look at an old game but a beautiful map. And you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.